Hey guys, alright, so my name's Heather, and a little introduction about myself. For one, throughout this video you will see me smoking. It is a bad habit, you should not do it. Between the pain and my medications though, however, I do smoke a lot. It's bad. Don't do it, kids. Just don't. I try to watch my cussing. I will try. I'm going to change the settings on this channel to 18 above just because of the content. My mom is going with me to the Mayo Clinic. She's not very technologically advanced. However, I am going to have her take pictures and video whenever possible. I don't know what tests and procedures they're going to perform. However, I will post what I can when I can. So let's get started a little bit about me. December 2013 is whenever I had my first major episode. I had what I thought was a spider bite, and it grew really big. Yeah, it's some nasty stuff. However, there was no pus, nothing for them to drain. They even ultrasounded it. There was nothing there for them to drain, which was very odd. The doctor even said with the spider bite, he would think there would be some sort of something for them to drain, and it wasn't. It was just a big mass of inflammation without fluid. So after that, I got sick within a month. I dropped 30 pounds, had scarlet fever, had flu-like symptoms, had been hospitalized twice, had, had, thrush really bad. They put me on so many antibiotics. My body didn't know what to do with it. It was just really bad. There were days where I couldn't get out of bed. There were days where my ex-husband, my husband at the time, would call my mom, who was a nurse, and have her come over. And one day she came over and looked at me in the bed, and she had to say my name because she thought I was dead, laying in bed. One thing about me is I tend to ramble on, and I do tend to repeat myself, especially after my medication, and I will try to watch that. In case you're wondering what I'm looking at over here, besides my ashtray, is this lovely thing. This is my medical book. It's about this thick. And this is mainly, I'll tell you what it is. When you first, I'm trying to get my camera. When you first open it up, it's got my appointments and such. And then it's got, I actually have a MAR. For those of you who are not in the medical field, you probably don't know what a MAR is. It is a medication administration record. I happen to have worked in the medical field for a very long time, so I luckily knew it was. One of my symptoms that came later on in July 2014 was blackouts, amnesia, and short-term memory loss. So I actually had to make a MAR of all the medications I was on. And this is not bad. A year and a half ago, I was using 2 sheets for my medications. So This actually isn't a lot of medications. And this is actually a lot of PRN medications. And for those of you who don't know what PRN means, it means as needed. This, I'm seeing a lot of newer doctors now. Because I've seen a lot of doctors, and they want a list of all of your medications. So I just started making my MAR with all of my medications, even the PRN medications, just so I can take this right on my binder and hand it to him and be like, here, just make a copy. It's a lot easier than me writing them all down. A lot easier. And then right here is my research. I am not the type of person to say, oh, I have this symptom, I'm going to Google it. Oh my god, I got cancer. I've gone to college. I was going to school for nursing. I decided not to do that. I decided I hated nursing. I decided to go to the biomedical field. I know how to do research. I know how to stay unbiased in a biased situation. I try to take myself out of the equation, even though I am part of the equation, if that makes any sense. So I don't look at it and say, oh my god, that's me right there. You know, I have that. I try to rule it out, and come up with possibilities, and then ask my doctor, what do you think about this? Can we run labs for this? So this much right here is my research. Now, just to give you a little insight to the hell I've gone through. The types of symptoms that I've gone through, and I'll try to give you the short version. Now, I've had left hemispherical migraines for quite some time. I've had migraines since I started puberty. I was diagnosed with PMDD, premenstrual dysphoric disorder, when I was probably about 13, 14. I would have to call out of school sometimes during my time of the month, because of the pain would be so bad, and because of the migraines. However, they were full head-on migraines. However, in a car wreck, after a car wreck, 2007, I want to say 2007, 2008-ish, it was 2008, around my C5, I had, I think it was my C5 and C7, I had 2 bulging discs. Since then, I've had left hemispherical migraines. I had surgery to correct that. For about 6 months, I was rid of the migraines, which was amazing. And then the migraines came back. I'm now on a drug called zonisamide, which is awesome. I went from having about 20 migraine days a month to maybe 1 or 2. Maybe. Topamax didn't work for me, which was a really downfall because everybody knows Topamax makes you lose weight. And at the time, I wasn't my normal 130, 135. I was, at the time, I was around 160, 150, 160. And so I was really hoping for the Topamax, but I had just bad reaction to it. So, but the zonisamide has really worked for me. So anybody out there with migraines, yeah, if you need a preventative medication and you've never tried that, there you go, triazonisamide. ZONISAMIDE, I do believe. Okay, next is dizziness, feeling faint, and fatigue. This started around late 2007. When I'm in the car driving, sometimes I get it. I kind of have to cough or talk or start singing or something. Sometimes when I'm walking, it's not just like I stand up and it's like, oh, I stood up too fast. Like, people are like, oh, well, maybe you just stood up too fast. I'm like, I was already standing up. I was walking. Like, what are you talking about? It just, there's no pattern. There's no, I've tried putting a pattern to it. Did I eat recently? Have I had too much sugar? Not enough sugar? Too much sleep? Not enough sleep? If I've been up too long, not enough sleep, too much sleep, there's no rhyme or reason. Weight issues starting around 2007. That's when it really started with the weight issues. After my 2008 wreck, I went from a size 5'7", sometimes a 9, depending on what brand it was. I started having thyroid issues, which was really weird. And it caused me to gain a little bit of weight. Of course, with my neck being messed up, I couldn't do a lot of the things that I would normally do. And so I was around, I would say around 150-ish. But I've always been told I carry my weight well. I'm not really big chested, but I'm decently sized. I'm broad shouldered and I'm like athletically built, I guess, even though I'm kind of like small boned a little bit in some places, but I have like really big hips and I've always had really big thighs, even since I was little. So I always got called thunder thighs. But everybody, like, whenever I'd say I weighed 155 or something, they're like, no way. Like, I don't believe you. I'm like, yeah, I do. Oh, and I'm 5'5". So, but apparently I carry it well. I don't know. So the weight issues, I kind of laid it out for the doctor. Like, I had this all in notes and details and everything. Before the weight gain in 2008, I was 130, 135. I was in about a size 7 on average, just depending, again, on the brand of whatever. After the weight gain, I was at 160, 170. It really fluctuated. I would actually put that, I probably would change it to about 150, 160. But I wore about a size 13. After the first episode, by January 2014, sorry, I gotta light up. First episode in 2 weeks. And keep this in mind. When my doctor had weighed me, I weighed 168. In 2 weeks, I dropped down to 138. I lost 30 pounds in 2 weeks. I think it was exactly 17 days, so just a little over 2 weeks. That did not raise a red flag to them whatsoever. I was in a size 5'6". I wasn't even that small before. Like, I've not been a size 5'6" since before I got pregnant when I was a teenager. backstory, I got pregnant when I was 16, had my child when I was 17. Yeah. I lost all the pregnancy weight quite quickly. It was mostly water. I was preeclamptic. Had to have him by a C-section. There was some complications. Yada, yada, yada. Anyways. The second episode, which was July 2014, I shot up to 180 pounds. And by December, I was 200, and by this past Christmas, I was 206 pounds. I was wearing a size 18. I've never bought a size 18 before. Even when I was pregnant. When I was pregnant, I got up to 210. Because of the water weight. I still wasn't that big. It was just water. Now, by the way, back to the thyroid thing, which we'll probably get to here in a minute. My thyroid fixed itself. So I no longer have issues. Well, here recently, my thyroid became hyperactive for no reason. So I started losing weight. But then it fixed itself. By the time it took for me to get into the endocrinologist to figure out what was wrong with my thyroid had already fixed itself. Now I went from 206 to 177 in about 2 months. And I have been practically, I would say bedridden, but it hurts for me to lay flat in my bed. So recliner ridden since I've been on medical leave in November. We'll get to that in a minute. So heart fluttering is the next one. Whenever I was 14, I was diagnosed with manic depressive bipolar disorder. I found out that I have reactions to antidepressants, SSRIs and SSNRIs or SS or SNRIs or whatever they are. Anything that messes with my serotonin, I can't take. My serotonin's like, no, F you, don't mess with me. So anyways, going to this, my first medications given to me were a mixture of Zoloft and Risperdal, which are not supposed to be given to a 14-year-old, especially in combination. Luckily, my mom's a nurse. I almost had a heart attack. And since then, I've had a fluttering in my chest. I now have AFib. And the problem with that is it's not been diagnosed because it's not been caught on a 24-hour monitor, Holter monitor. It doesn't happen often enough for it to be caught. I've told my new cardiologist this, and they want to do a 15-day monitor event, or 15-day event monitor, whatever it is. However, I'm getting ready to go to the Mayo Clinic, so I have to cancel tomorrow's appointment because the next day I leave for the Mayo Clinic. So, that's going to have to hold off. My grandmother as well has AFib, and she told me when she gets the fluttering to cough, she coughs, and it stops it, and so I started doing that, and it worked. Otherwise, I would pass out. And so I started doing that, and what do you know, it helped. It really concerned me when I was 16 and pregnant. It got worse, and I went to the cardiologist, They did an echo, it did fine. They did an ultrasound, they did everything they could, and they did the Holter, and I know I'm probably not pronouncing it right. I do have a twang that sort of hangs out. I tend to not pronounce words correctly, and you will notice that. But of course it didn't happen while I was wearing the monitor. I actually just had one done recently. And of course, as soon as I turned the damn machine off and turned it in, I had an event. So that was my luck. And of course, when you tell a doctor that, they look at you like, yeah, right. So moving on to the next symptom. Numbness and tingling. I just put that I've had this for a couple of years because I really don't know how long. My hands and feet become numb very easily with or without pressure or with obvious cause. Sometimes it's only my fingers or toes. It doesn't matter whether it's hot or cold or anything. Recently, after July 2014 episode, my left leg will tingle or become almost completely useless or numb. My left cheek also has some numbness. At first I thought I was getting Bell's palsy, but it didn't go any further. It's like right around in here. Every now and then I get this numbness and like a little tingly shock. It doesn't hurt, but then it just goes away. It's just annoying. But here recently, well, we'll get to the muscle spasms. So, restless legs, I've always had them. The Klonopin that I take for my night terrors helps for the restless legs. My mom has them, my grandma has it. It's kind of, I don't know. Gastrointestinal, let's say gastro. I've had nausea off and on for a long time, for no reason whatsoever. I take pregnancy tests regularly. I know that sounds really weird, but because of all the tests that they run and because of all the x-rays and MRIs and CTs and everything that they do, I take pregnancy tests monthly. I was on the NuvaRing, and now I have the Nexplanon implant. So just to make sure that hasn't failed, I take pregnancy tests every month just to make sure that, just to make sure, because I don't want to, like, radiate the baby or something if, something failed. Other than that, like, my intestines and colon are about the only thing in my body working correctly. I get, not to be, like, TMI or anything, but I get constipated every once in a while, but that's because of the pain medication. So, tip out there to anybody in pain management that's on any pain medication. Do not use laxatives. Your body will become dependent upon them. You just want a stool softener, and use it on a regular basis. Don't use it when you're constipated. Don't wait till then. Use it on a regular basis. Or you can take magnesium regularly, whatever. And that'll help with all other things too. Muscle control and weakness. This is the biggest thing. This is why I thought it was MS or Guillain-Barré. late 2012, early 2013, I began having swelling, inflammation, and unknown injuries to my muscles. The biggest thing was my shoulder. It swelled to where it's about here, no joke. My shoulders looked like this. I went to physical therapy, and she said that she had never seen a case like this. And she would rub biofreeze and massage my shoulder. And she would have to push that first rib down, and she could not get it down. And she would have to actually stand up to push it and work on it to get it down. And she said I was a mess, and I literally just woke up one day like it wasn't like I'd hurt myself at work or anything. I just there were a lot of times where I thought I had hurt myself at work, but I didn't know it until like a couple days later when I had been off a day or two, and then I'd start hurting. I'm like, oh, okay, well maybe I hurt myself lifting so and so. But then again, like, I should have felt that at least the day after. You know, when you get hurt or sore or something, like, you always feel it the day after. But 2 days after sounds really weird. Anyways, the biggest thing is lately, I've been having muscle contractions in my ribs. That's the biggest thing. My back, I have muscle spasms all throughout my back. And recently, the newest one to develop, one of the second one is actually there's an actual video on this channel. Is the second episode I had of the muscle spasms. What is happening in that video is my ribs are contracting so bad that it feels like they're going to break. At the same time, my back and shoulder muscles are spasming so bad that they feel like, it almost feels like I'm getting a body lift, like somebody's yanking my muscles up out of my body. After each episode that I have of this, for some reason, even though my legs are not cranking up at the time of the episode, my legs become more and more useless. After the first episode, I had a Vicane. After the second one, and third, I now have a wheelchair for longer walks, and I have to use a bath chair. I have to use the bath chair for 2 reasons. I passed out, the reason why I'm on medical leave. In November, I passed out at work. It's not good when you're a security officer. Come to find out, I have tachycardia. It's called POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. It is a syndrome caused by whatever disease it is that I have. Anytime I'm upright, even sitting up will cause it, but mostly standing. My pulse just goes through the roof, for no reason. Most symptoms that I get come and go, just like the hypotension and the hypertension. Each of those, I had them for a couple weeks and they went. The hypothyroidism and the hyperthyroidism, had them for a couple weeks and they went. Unfortunately, just like the muscle cramps and the muscle spasms, the tachycardia is not going away. I have a special watch, if I can get it turned the right way to show you, that takes my pulse. Right now, it is only 96, which is actually pretty good for me sitting down. Usually me sitting down is usually in the lower hundreds. But it got to the point where me taking a shower would be in the 160s, just from me taking a shower. It got to the point where I could not take a shower being home alone. Then it graduated to where somebody had to stand there and practically watch me take a shower because I would start to pass out from the heat and from my pulse being high. And I couldn't take a cold shower because if I take a cold shower, then for the rest of the day, my muscles will cramp up and spasm and everything even worse than normal. And I'm already on 2 muscle relaxers, and there's no other I've tried other muscle relaxers. There's no other muscle relaxers that work. These are the only 2 that somewhat work for me, so there's nothing really else that can be done. So, yeah. So that's the bath chair, and now I have a wheelchair because of the tachycardia, and now my legs are practically useless. Back in July 2014, I would randomly lose the use of my left leg. Like, it would just go numb, but it was kind of like I walked like Igor, like, yes, mister, you know. And I just kind of got used to it, and then eventually it just went away. My muscle weakness is all over. Blow drying my hair. I started to break a sweat. It's gotten to a point where my boyfriend is nice enough. He actually holds the blow dryer for me, so I can just kind of lean over, and that way I don't have to lift my arms up. Just holding my arms up, even to shampoo my hair, I usually just lean my head over to shampoo it. Holding my arms up long enough to do anything like that just gets tiring. Even when I drive, I normally hold the bottom of the steering wheel, because holding the top for too long, my biceps start to get worn out. I've lost a lot of muscle control. And one thing that is depressing about that is I used to be very fit in high school. I was in JROTC. I was one of the top in my class. I could dead hang and chin up. Even the guys, push-ups, sit-ups were nothing for me. I love doing physical things. I love playing soccer with my son and baseball, and I can't do those things right now. And I'm seeing a therapist now, and I've learned to accept that and accept my limitations right now. And I've learned to not necessarily hope that it'll get better, because I've learned something about hope. If you hope, then it brings you up to this level, and then when you're let down, you fall even farther. Whereas if you just stay where you're at and you hope for the best but you expect the worst, you only fall a little bit. And I know that's kind of a morbid way to look at it, and that's the way I explained it to my therapist, and she said, no, it's actually a really realistic way to look at it. And when you've been through so many letdowns like I have, you get to that point. Going back to the bipolar and depression and everything, I got myself off my medication. I learned to manage my manic episodes. They're not that bad. My depression is only environmentally induced. Right now, I'm only depressed because I haven't been to work since November 2015, and here it is, March 7th, 2016. And I'm not the type of person to sit around at home. I need to make an income. I need to make money. I feel bad that my boyfriend is making money and having to work, and I feel like I'm not pulling my weight, and I'm not contributing. Even though he tells me all the time, you can't help it, it's not your fault. I'm like, still, I feel like I need to contribute. Moving on. Sleep paralysis. That's not really anything contributing to this. I've had it since I was a kid. Most people outgrow it. Some people experience it once or twice throughout their adulthood. I have it frequently. I'm not really going to go into that. If you want to know more about it, feel free to comment, and I'll talk to you about it. If you want to know information about it, or how to get treated, or you're having problems with it, just let me know, and I have no problem talking to you about it. Skin issues started with the first episode with that spider bite. After that, the second episode, I had another spider bite, and it was on my right inner ankle, I believe. I think. Might have been my left. I don't remember now. Anyways, and that's how it all started. And then I ended up going to the hospital the next day, and I started getting sick again, and I started crying. I was like, I don't want to be sick again. That's when the rib contraction started, and then I wake up one day, and my right hand was just swollen and all red, and I had already stopped taking the antibiotics by then, so it wasn't on any medication. So then I had to go back to the hospital, and they had to put me on steroids, and yada, yada. It seems steroids is the only thing that helps, so that's why we all thought it was autoimmune. So I kept going to the doctors under the assumption that it was autoimmune, because my doctor had done an MRI and saw no lesions on the brain, so we thought we ruled out MS. Well, then I got on this website that said, oh no, I had MS, and for years I didn't have lesions. We had to do a spinal tap, and yada, yada, yada. So then that put doubt in me, thinking, okay, maybe I do have MS. I want a spinal tap. Well, no doctors would give me the spinal tap. And yes, I'm drinking a Mountain Dew. No, I'm not supposed to. For the tachycardia, I'm supposed to be on a low carb, high sodium, high potassium diet. The past few days, I've been drinking and eating carbs. I figured, what the hell, we're going to be going on this trip, and it's very hard to go on a road trip on a low carb diet, so whatever. That, and we kind of ran out of money. When you're low on money, you kind of have to eat the dollar menu. Again, I have no income. And my mom's kind of in the same situation I am. Only hers is, her medical issues are caused from car wrecks. So, at least we know what's wrong with her. Oh, and then I had a UTI for a year. And warning, TMI, we knew I had one in July 2014. They gave me antibiotics, so of course, once you have antibiotics for UTI, you think it's gone. And then all of a sudden, my urine started stinking, and it wasn't like a foul odor. It smelled like the inside of a balloon. But it was so strong is what made it foul. And I never smelled that before. And I made sure it wasn't my oohoo. Like, I smelled my urine. And it was my urine. And then I actually started passing air through my urethra. Now, when I went to the hospital and told the physician assistant this, and my mom was there, and she got a kick out of this. I told him this. I said, now you're going to think I'm crazy, because I've never heard of this. But I'm passing air through my urethra every time I pee. I've had my mom stand in the bathroom with me while I peed, listen. I've had my mother-in-law, who is also a nurse. I've had my boyfriend. I've had other people, and they've heard it. And he looked at me, and he said, "Are you sure it's not coming from somewhere else?" And I looked at him, and I just had to be blunt, and I said, "No, I'm sure I'm not farting or queefing." That was the most uncomfortable conversation, and I do not get embarrassed easily whatsoever. That was the most embarrassing conversation I've ever had with a freaking doctor. I had to try to get him to understand I'm literally passing air from my urethra. He still did not believe me. Luckily, when I went to go see the urologist, he believed me. I was put on Cipro, Flagyl, Macrobid, Keflex, 2 other antibiotics, and all of them probably about 4 times. And it did not go away. Finally, he put me on Cipro for about Keflex for about a month. And it finally went away after having it for a year. Never had any pain with it. Never had any frequency to go. Never had any burning. Nothing. Just the smell and the air. It was the weirdest freaking thing. My body has been doing some weird shit. Sinus issues. I was a very sickly child. When I went to the dentist, when I was probably about 16, the dentist was like, "You were really sick as a child, weren't you?" And I was like, "Yeah, how did you know?" He's like, "Well, I can tell you had a lot of high fevers and antibiotics. Supposedly there's like rings on my teeth he could see with his tool or whatever." And, yeah, I was a very sickly child. I remember going to the hospital at least 2-3 times a month. Pneumonia, bronchitis, asthma, stomach viruses, you name it, I had it. I had tubes in my ears. I had to have 2 eye surgeries. I was born like this. I had to have my tonsils and adenoids removed. I was very, and I still get strep throat. Even as an adult, still get strep throat. And I've had my tonsils removed. So, I was kind of a waste. But I was always sick when I was a kid. Yeah. So, my nose always runs. I have to have a tissue with me. Always have tissues and sanitizer with me. Whenever I walk out the door, it's cell phone, cigarettes, lighter, tissue, sanitizer. No matter what. Yeah. Because, like, right now, I need to, like, wipe my nose, and I'm, like, trying to wait. Memory problems, that started in 2014. I started having blackouts and amnesia. And it was really, really bad. I cleaned the apartment that my boyfriend and I were living in, and it was during a blackout, and we couldn't find any of our phone chargers, I had reorganized everything, and for almost a month we couldn't find the damn phone chargers. It's still a joke to us this day, but at the time it was really sad. Now I have really bad recall memory, and there's a word for it. I can't remember the word, which is really funny because I'm going to describe what the word means. There's a word for it when it's what it's called for whenever you can't think of a word. Now sometimes it happens to people every once in a while. It's like, you say, oh, it's on the tip of my tongue, but this happens to me very regularly, on a regular basis, and it drives me nuts. I've called people at 1 o'clock in the morning to say, oh, by the way, that word was da 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 da, just because I had to tell them that word, because it drove me nuts that I forgot and couldn't think of that word. I thought it was getting better last year and tried to go back to school, and noticed very quickly that my recall and short-term memory concentration ability was very, very bad. I was in biology class, which I love biology. I excel very well in biology. And this is shit I already knew, yet we would go over it, and I would write down things, and as soon as she turned the slide, I would have no clue what the hell she just said, or what we were talking about. I would have to read through my notes, and by that time she's already at the next slide, so it was just a mess. Moving on, the syncope I told you about, I passed out at work. I passed out a few times at home, and most of the time that I passed out, I was sitting down, which was weird that it was caused from the tachycardia because, like I said, I was sitting down. However, recently I tried taking myself off of the metoprolol, which is what they have me on, for my heart rate. It's a long story why I've tried to take myself off, but here we are at 47 minutes and 30 seconds, so we'll save that for a different time. And my heart rate sitting down was 130s, 140s. Standing up, we'd get to 180s. So that kind of explained why I passed out, even just sitting down. So that is just the beginning of my book. So I'm going to go ahead and stop it right here. And the next part, I will go through a little bit of the research and my journey, the rest of my journey through hell of researching and going through some of my symptoms and everything, and going through the rest of my book.